Chapter 12. The Nexuzar Ultimatum. In a secure and undisclosed location, the world leaders convened once again under the summons of the Nexuzar, led by Zalarian. The atmosphere was tense. A blend of apprehension and resignation filled the air as they awaited the agenda of this clandestine meeting. Zalarian, a figure of imposing authority, commenced the meeting with a rare commendation. "Your initiative in the voluntary departures program has proven most beneficial," he began, his voice resonating with a cold efficiency. "We have accelerated our efforts, manipulating social media to encourage participation in this program. The results are promising." The world leaders exchanged uneasy glances, aware of the moral ambiguity of their actions, but constrained by the overwhelming power of the Nexuzar and their Draxarian overlords. However, Zalarian's tone shifted as he addressed the Russian president. "Your contribution, however, has been markedly insufficient. The numbers from Russia are disappointingly low." The Russian president, Mikhail Petrov, met Zalarian's gaze with a defiant one of his own. "I have reservations about this method. To deceive our people into suicide turned involuntary servitude is a betrayal of their trust. Perhaps it is time we reconsider our position and the illusion of freedom we live under." Zalarian's expression hardened. "Such thoughts are dangerous and futile. Should you choose to defy Nexuzar, the consequences would be catastrophic. The Draxarians would not hesitate to reduce your planet to a mere workforce, stripping it of most life." The president stood his ground. "Maybe facing the truth is preferable to living under this manipulation, being puppets to alien masters." His words stirred a murmur among the other leaders. The Prime Minister of Britain, Aaron Jones, voiced his agreement. "There is a point where we must question the cost of our compliance." The discussion grew heated, with the leaders of China, the US, and Canada expressing their concerns, but ultimately siding with maintaining the status quo. "The risks of defiance are too great," argued Elizabeth H. Graham, the US president. "We must stay the course for the greater good." Zalarian, observing the divide, issued a final warning. "Your cooperation is not optional. The Nexuzar have allowed you autonomy under our guidance. Do not mistake this for independence. We expect full compliance, or the consequences will be dire." The meeting concluded with a heavy air of unease. The world leaders, despite their varied stances, recognized the gravity of their situation. They were entangled in a complex web of power, control, and moral ambiguity, with the fate of humanity precariously hanging in the balance. As they departed, each leader grappled with the ethical dilemmas and the burden of decisions that would impact not just their nations, but the entire human race. As the meeting adjourned, the Russian president, Mikhail Petrov, maintained his defiant stare towards Zalarian, his eyes reflecting his resentment. After exchanging a final, charged glance, he turned and left the room, his mind undoubtedly racing with thoughts of resistance and liberation. Outside the building, concealed in the shadows, a Russian intelligence operative waited with a singular focus: to uncover the method by which Zalarian returned to the moon, a crucial piece of information that could potentially turn the tide in their favor. He watched intently as Zalarian exited the building. Instead of any conventional means of transportation, Zalarian stood still for a moment, looking up at the sky. Suddenly, his body became enveloped in a shimmering field of light, barely visible to the naked eye. It was as if the air around him vibrated with an unseen energy. Moments later, Zalarian vanished without a trace, as if he had been absorbed or teleported by the mysterious energy field, with nothing more than a streak of light blue light vanishing just above the treetops. The Russian operative, having witnessed this extraordinary event, quickly retreated to compile his report. This method of transportation, seemingly advanced and undetectable, was beyond any current human technology. It was clear that Zalarian used some form of advanced teleportation, possibly linked to the same technology that powered the Rosen bridges used by the Draxarian ships. Back in Moscow, the operative met with President Petrov in a secure location. "He just vanished, sir," surrounded by a field of light. It was unlike anything I've ever seen, the spy reported. Petrov, his mind working rapidly, saw an opportunity in this revelation. If we can somehow harness or replicate this technology, even momentarily, we could send a nuclear device to the moon, directly into their stronghold. The idea was radical, dangerous, and fraught with uncertainty. Yet Petrov saw it as their only chance to break free from the Nexuzar's control. This is our opportunity to strike back, to free Earth from their manipulation. We need to bring the other world leaders on board. The proposition of covertly using Zalarian's method of transportation to send a nuclear weapon to the moon was a gamble of the highest order. It would require unprecedented international cooperation, technological innovation, and secrecy. Something he was well aware would not come. Aware of the risks and the potential backlash from both the Nexuzar and the Drixarians, Petrov knew that this plan could either be the key to Earth's liberation or the catalyst for its downfall. The weight of this decision and the need to convince the other world leaders to join this daring plot marked the beginning of a new, audacious chapter in the struggle for Earth's freedom. President Mikhail Petrov, fueled by his determination to challenge the Nexuzar's control over Earth, made a clandestine trip to Britain. His mission was clear: to gauge the level of commitment of the British Prime Minister Aaron Jones towards the idea of a liberated Earth, and to potentially recruit him as an ally in his daring plan. Upon his arrival, the two leaders met in a secure and undisclosed location, away from prying eyes and listening devices. The meeting began with cautious pleasantries, but it wasn't long before Petrov broached the subject that weighed heavily on his mind. Petrov observed Jones closely as he outlined his thoughts on freeing Earth from alien control. He spoke of the need for decisive action, the importance of reclaiming their sovereignty, and the opportunity presented by Zalarian's mysterious teleportation method. Jones listened intently, his expression one of contemplation. It was clear that the idea of breaking free from alien manipulation resonated with him. "Your courage in considering such a bold move is commendable, Mikhail," Jones responded thoughtfully. "But we must be practical about our capabilities." The discussion then turned to the feasibility of replicating the alien technology used by Zalarian. Both leaders were well aware of the technological gap between human and alien capabilities. After a lengthy and detailed conversation, they concluded that replicating the teleportation technology would require decades of research and development, a luxury of time they did not have. Recognizing the impracticality of their initial idea, they agreed to collaborate on devising a new plan. "We need an alternative approach, one that's within our reach," Jones suggested. Petrov nodded in agreement. "We'll pool our resources, our best minds. There must be a way to counter their influence, a strategy that we can implement sooner rather than later." The meeting ended with a renewed sense of partnership between the two nations. Though their initial plan to use a nuclear device had been shelved, their resolve to find a way to free Earth from the Nexuzar's control remained unshaken. As Petrov left Britain, both leaders committed to maintaining close communication, each returning to their respective countries to mobilize their resources and begin the search for a viable alternative to challenge their alien overseers.